I never thought silence could feel so loud. The day the money went missing, every eye slowly turned toward me. No one said my name, but I felt it hanging in the air. Heavy. Dark. Final. The money had been kept in one place for years. Everyone knew that. It was meant for emergencies, for family needs, for the future we talked about but never planned. When it disappeared, panic spread fast. Questions followed. Who last saw it? Who had access? Who knew the codes? I answered honestly. I told them when I had last seen it. I explained what I knew. I thought truth would be enough. It wasn't. Someone else spoke with confidence. They sounded calm, certain. They suggested I had been careless. They hinted I was struggling financially. They reminded everyone of past mistakes I had made. The room shifted. I waited for someone to defend me. No one did. Instead, they defended the other person. They said trust mattered. They said accusations could tear the family apart. I stood there realizing something painful. They were not looking for the truth. They were looking for someone easy to blame. After that day, everything changed. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Phones went quiet. Smiles felt forced. I became careful with every word. I replayed the moment again and again. I knew I had not taken the money. I knew I had not even touched it. Still, doubt followed me like a shadow. The person they defended acted normal. Too normal. They spoke kindly to me, even gently. That made it worse. I tried to explain again, calmly. I suggested checking records. I mentioned dates. The response was always the same. Let's not make this bigger than it is. That sentence hurt more than the accusation. I began to understand something important. Protecting peace mattered more to them than protecting truth. And peace was easier if I carried the blame. That night I opened a notebook. I wrote down everything I remembered. Movements, small details others might forget. I didn't know why I did it yet. I just knew I needed to. Because if they wouldn't listen to my words, maybe one day they would have to listen to facts. Days passed and pressure grew. I was reminded often how much stress the situation caused everyone. I was told my questions made things worse. I was advised to let it go. But something inside me refused. I watched closely now. I noticed how the defended one avoided certain topics. How stories changed slightly each time. How confidence replaced caution when no one challenged them. Kept writing. I noticed spending patterns that did not make sense. I noticed timing that matched too well. I noticed reactions when certain numbers were mentioned. No one else seemed to notice, or maybe they didn't want to. One evening, I overheard a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. The voice was low and rushed. Words like covered and handled were used. My chest tightened. That was the moment doubt left me completely. I was no longer guessing. I was watching a lie protect itself. Still, I stayed quiet. I realized that truth doesn't always need a voice right away. Sometimes it needs time to grow sharp. Being blamed changed how I saw people. Those who once laughed with me now watched me carefully. Those who spoke the loudest about honesty avoided details. The defended one grew bolder. They spoke for the family. They answered questions meant for others. They controlled the story. And the family let them. I was warned not to dig too deep. I was told it would look bad. I was asked why I couldn't just move on. I asked myself the same thing. But every time I tried to let it go, my name was brought up again. The blame followed me everywhere. Moving on wasn't an option. So I focused. I learned how money trails worked. I learned where mistakes were usually made. I learned how confidence often hides fear. Late one night I found something small. Just one detail. A date that didn't match the story. It wasn't proof yet. But it was the beginning. And beginnings are dangerous for lies. The first piece of proof didn't shock me. It confirmed what I already felt. A record had been altered. Slightly. Almost unnoticeable. Almost. Copied it. I saved it. I said nothing. From that moment I stopped defending myself. I stopped explaining. I let them believe they had one. That confused them. The defended one relaxed. They laughed more. They spoke freely. They believed the danger had passed. But lies grow careless when they feel safe. Kept collecting. Quietly. Carefully. I understood now why they defended the thief. Because admitting the truth would mean admitting they were wrong about me. And that truth was coming. After I stopped defending myself, people relaxed around me. They thought silence meant defeat. Didn't. Meant focus. I listened more than I spoke. I noticed how stories changed depending on who was in the room. I noticed how the defended one remembered events clearly until details mattered. Then memory became uncertain. I wrote everything down. I noticed how money problems started to appear again. Bills were mentioned. Emergencies came up. Yet no one explained where funds went. One afternoon I asked a simple question. I asked if anyone had checked the storage box where receipts were kept. The room went quiet. Someone laughed and said those papers were old and useless. Old paper still tells the truth. That night I searched quietly. The box was lighter than before. Some receipts were gone. Not all. Just the ones that mattered. That told me more than any confession could. I realized then that the thief wasn't alone. Silence protected them. Comfort protected them. Fear protected them. And I was done being afraid. The defended one began watching me closely. I felt it in the way conversations stopped when I entered. I felt it in the sudden kindness that felt forced. They asked how I was doing. They asked if I needed help. They smiled too much. Smiled back. Inside I counted days. I matched dates. I lined up stories with records. The pattern was clear now. Money had moved in small pieces. Never enough at once to cause alarm. Slow enough to hide. Clever enough to avoid suspicion. I understood why they blamed me. I was the distraction. I noticed how often my past mistakes were mentioned again. I noticed how often trust was used as an excuse to avoid questions. Trust should not fear truth. One night, I copied every document I had found so far. I saved them in more than one place. I learned that truth is fragile if it lives in one spot. The defended one grew confident again. Confidence makes people careless. Pressure returned, but differently this time. I was told to stop acting strange. I was warned that people were talking. I asked what they were saying. No one answered clearly. That silence told me everything. I was accused again, quietly, carefully. Never directly. Just enough to keep suspicion alive. Just enough to keep the focus off the thief. I stayed calm. I began asking questions publicly. Small ones. Innocent ones. Questions that required facts, not feelings. The answers didn't match. The defended one stepped in quickly each time. They corrected others. They explained too much. People who tell the truth don't rush. I noticed someone else start to look uncomfortable. Not guilty but uncertain. Doubt had begun to spread. That was important. Truth doesn't need everyone. It only needs one crack. One evening a mistake was made. The defended one mentioned an amount that had never been shared openly. I asked how they knew that number. They froze. Someone else spoke quickly, changing the topic. But it was too late. I had seen it. That number matched my records exactly. I went home that night knowing the end had begun. Lies can survive suspicion. They cannot survive precision. I reviewed everything again. Checked for gaps. Found none. The story was complete. Now I had to decide when to speak. Speaking too soon would cause chaos. Speaking too late would let the lie settle forever. I waited. The next accusation came publicly. My name was mentioned clearly this time. I was blamed for delays. For confusion. For tension. I listened quietly. Then I said one sentence. I have records. The room changed instantly. No one asked what records. No one laughed. No one challenged me. Fear speaks louder than denial. I didn't show anything yet. I didn't explain. I let the words sit heavy in the air. That night messages came. Meetings were suggested. Apologies almost formed but stopped halfway. I ignored them all. They had defended the thief. Now they feared the truth. After I said I had records, the house felt different. Voices lowered. Doors closed more often. People chose their words carefully around me. No one asked directly what I meant. Instead, they tested me. They asked small questions, pretending to joke. They tried to learn how much I knew without showing fear. I gave them nothing. I noticed the defended one watching me more closely now. They checked my face when certain topics came up. They laughed less. Their confidence cracked at the edges. A family meeting was suggested. They said it was for peace. I knew it was for control. Still, I agreed to attend. Before the meeting, I reviewed every document again. I read them slowly. Mounts. Everything lined up. At the meeting, people spoke about unity, about forgiveness, about moving forward. No one spoke about truth. Then they asked me to speak. I said I only wanted clarity. I said money does not disappear without leaving a trail. The room went quiet. Someone said I was making things worse. I realized then that peace built on lies is fragile. Breaks easily. The meeting ended without answers. People left quickly, avoiding eye contact. I stayed seated until the room emptied. That night, I received a message asking to talk privately. The tone was softer, almost apologetic. I agreed to listen. They spoke about stress, about fear, about how things had gotten out of hand. They never admitted anything. They never said the word steal. I asked one question. I asked where the money went. The answer was long and unclear. Stories overlapped. Timelines blurred. Lies struggle when forced to explain themselves. I said nothing more. I simply nodded and left. After that, tension grew fast. I could feel it. Whispers increased. Conversations stopped when I entered. Someone tried to turn others against me again. They said I was threatening the family. They said I wanted attention. But doubt had already spread. I noticed people checking facts quietly, asking questions they never asked before, watching reactions more closely. Truth had entered the room, and it refused to leave. The defended one made a mistake soon after. They repeated a story they had told earlier, but the details didn't match. Someone noticed. For the first time, a question was asked that I didn't ask myself. I stayed quiet and watched. The answer came too fast. Too many words. Too much explanation. I saw confusion spread across faces. Trust cracked slightly. That was all it took. Later that day, someone approached me privately. They asked if what I said about records was true. I told them to decide for themselves. I didn't need allies. I needed truth to stand on its own. I went home and prepared everything. I organized documents clearly. I made copies. I labeled timelines simply. I knew once I shared it, there would be no return. Felt calm. Not angry. Not excited. The calm that comes when you know you are standing on solid ground. The pressure became open now. I was asked to stop. I was warned about consequences. I was told I would break relationships. I asked why truth was more dangerous than lies. No one answered. Someone suggested we forget the past and move on. I asked how I could move on while carrying blame that wasn't mine. Silence followed. I realized then they weren't protecting the thief anymore. They were protecting themselves. Admitting the truth meant admitting they were wrong about me. That hurt them more than the theft. I decided I would not argue anymore. I would let the records speak. I chose a time when everyone would see the same thing at once. No private talks. No twisting words. Just facts. When I finally shared the records, I did it without emotion. I sent the same documents to everyone. I said nothing else. The reaction was slow, then loud, then quiet again. Questions followed. Not for me but for the defended one. Denials came fast. Then excuses. Then silence. I watched the story fall apart piece by piece. No one defended the thief anymore. And for the first time no one blamed me. Once the records were shared, everything slowed down. People stopped talking all at once. Messages came in pieces. Some were short. Some were careful. Some said nothing at all. I watched reactions instead of words. Shock showed on some faces. Others looked away. A few stared too long at the papers, as if hoping the numbers would change. They didn't. The defended one tried to explain. Their voice shook. They said there had been confusion. They said they meant to fix it later. They said stress had pushed them too far. No one interrupted. That silence felt heavy. I said nothing. I had already said enough. What hurt most was not the theft. It was watching people realize they had chosen the wrong side. I saw regret in their eyes, mixed with embarrassment. Truth doesn't shout. Wait. And once it is seen, it cannot be unseen. Meetings followed quickly. This time the questions were direct. Where did the money go? When did it leave? Why was it hidden? The defended one struggled. Their answers tangled together. Dates were mixed up. Amounts were guessed. Facts don't guess. I was asked to explain my records. I walked through them slowly. Kept my voice calm. I pointed only to what could be proven. No one argued. Someone apologized quietly. Another avoided my eyes. A third said they were sorry for not listening sooner. I accepted the words, but I didn't feel relief yet. Trust doesn't return with apologies alone. I realized something important then. Being right doesn't heal everything. Sometimes it only shows how deep the damage goes. The thief was no longer defended. Distance formed quickly around them. Conversations stopped. Support vanished. I didn't feel satisfaction. Felt tired. I was asked what I wanted to happen next. Question felt strange. For so long I had only wanted the truth. I said I wanted my name cleared. Freeware. People nodded. Some agreed. Some stayed quiet. That was enough for me. Later I heard arguments behind closed doors. Blame shifted. Anger rose. Excuses failed. I stayed away. I had carried this weight alone for too long. I wasn't going to carry theirs now. Days passed. The tension remained, but it was different. I was no longer the center of suspicion. I was the reminder. People spoke carefully around me now. They chose their words slowly. They checked facts before making claims. I noticed respect return quietly. Still, relationships felt fragile. Some bonds were broken beyond repair. Others tried to heal slowly. Focused on myself. I slept better. Thought clearer. I stopped replaying old conversations. Truth had done its work. Looking back, I understood why they defended the thief. It was easier than admitting they were wrong about me. They chose comfort over courage. Silence over truth. But truth waited. They defended the thief, not me. And when the truth finally spoke, it needed no defense at all. Time did what truth could not finish. It showed who had learned and who had not. Some people tried to act like nothing had happened. Others changed how they spoke to me. A few truly reflected. The thief stayed quiet. They kept their distance. The confidence they once had was gone. They no longer looked people in the eye. I didn't chase justice. The truth had already punished them in ways I could not. Loss of trust is heavier than loss of money. Focused on rebuilding myself. I worked harder. I stayed honest. Kept records of everything. I promised myself I would never let silence trap me again. I learned that peace doesn't come from being believed. Comes from knowing the truth and standing in it, even when no one joins you. One evening, someone who had accused me before came to speak with me. Their voice was low. They said they were ashamed. They admitted they had doubts before but ignored them. They said it was easier to believe I was wrong than to question the one they trusted. I listened. They asked how I stayed calm through it all. I told them the truth. I didn't stay calm. I stayed patient. Patience gave truth time to rise. They thanked me. He nodded. I didn't need more. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant refusing to carry the anger forward. Life slowly returned to normal. But I was no longer the same person. I trusted my instincts now. I spoke up early. Kept evidence. I set boundaries. I noticed others watching me with quiet respect. Not because I fought back loudly, but because I waited wisely. Some stories end with revenge. Mine ended with clarity. The thief lost what mattered most. I gained what mattered more. Looking back, I saw how close I came to breaking. If I had reacted with anger, the truth might have been buried. Silence, when paired with proof, became my strongest weapon. I learned that being blamed doesn't make you guilty. Being defended doesn't make you innocent. Truth stands alone. They defended the thief, not me. But in the end, the truth defended itself. I walked away lighter. Not because I won, but because I survived with my integrity intact. And that was enough.